Professor Sethulego Matebesi. Prof, a very good evening to you. Welcome to News at Prime. So is the former president, I wonder, the right person to be leading any kind of conversation in the ANC to do with unity and renewal?
Hi, Tembekile, and good evening to the viewers. A very difficult question to respond to. As far as I know, Thabo Mbeki, the former president of the African National Congress, is a member in good standing of the African National Congress and a veteran, and perhaps that's why the leader of the interim provincial committee, led by Ndatem Dukwana, perhaps saw that he is fit, or he fits the bill to be able to intervene in the province of the Free State. But fact of the matter is, we know that there are others who will have a different view, especially those who are very close to the suspended Secretary General of the African National Congress, Ndate Magashule, because we know the very strong views that Mbeki had about Ndate Magashule, and we also know that the African National Congress in the Free State are very loyal supporters. Some of them are very loyal supporters of Ndate Magashule.
So I was asking you the question about whether the former president is the right person to lead any kind of renewal program, because many of the people have said that the deepening or the widening of the rift among ANC members can be traced back to the pre-Polokwane era, where the divisions between Mbeki and Jacob Zuma ultimately led to the worsening of the situation, and why the party has battled so much to indeed renew itself. And that's why I was asking if he indeed is the right person to do this.
Yeah, well, Tembekile, if you want to take that route, that could be one of the explanations. But back of the matter, this is politics. There are many, a myriad of reasons why some of these things are happening. But even if you look at some of the solutions that have been proposed, the whole issue of gatekeeping, you've got President Mbeki, and my question, if I have to ask any South African or an ANC member, if it's not Mbeki, who will it be? You had in the past also one of the former presidents, also albeit for a very short period, Ndate Motante, who also intervened in many provinces. And I don't know who else is there within the African National Congress who can play the role that Mbeki can play, albeit with all the issues around him. But because for me, it's going to be very difficult to get an ANC member who is not conflicted when it comes to these whole factions. And although in the public domain, some of them you cannot actually pinpoint where they lie, but it was very difficult. We've seen sometimes how delegates who have been sent from the national office or the Thule House, how they themselves are actually messing up issues when it comes to the provinces and the regions. And here you've got somebody, yes, we all know it might be that he was also one of the reasons why the ANC is where it is currently. But I don't think anybody will dispute the fact that, yes, and it also had many flaws during his tenure. But the fact of the matter is he's still seen as a veteran within the African National Congress and as somebody who can perhaps lead this process.
Should it be a process that he leads jointly then with the other former president, Jacob Zuma, because either side at this point feels quite strongly about one of the men?
Yeah, once again, a very difficult question. If you talk about President Jacob Zuma, and he also had very loyal supporters, and we all know that the ANC is actually divided along those who is either pro anybody else, or either the former president, Jacob Zuma. President Jacob Zuma is having many court cases and all that just recently. And the question is, if you are a reputable organization, would you want to have somebody like that? And especially if you look at the step-aside rule of the African National Congress, I don't think the ANC would like to go for that particular route. Maybe somebody else. But believe me or not, I strongly believe that there are members of the African National Congress who still believe in the former president Jacob Zuma and perhaps think that he would have played a much better role. And as you suggest, perhaps along Mbeki. But the question is, would Mbeki have taken up such an invitation to be seen, to be gallivanting around with President Jacob Zuma, if you look at their history? And believe me or not, politics, unfortunately, in the public domain, sometimes it becomes a public relations exercise. But behind the scenes, we know how people are taking some of the decisions that have been taken. And I strongly believe that perhaps the former President Mbeki would have reconsidered accepting the invitation from the Free State province if the former President Zuma was also involved in this process.
Very briefly then, Prof. Thabo Mbeki, speaking yesterday, suggested that a full membership audit is what's needed in order for the ANC to rid itself of some of the rot within its ranks. How effective do you think that would be?
The ANC is currently on a slippery slope. And I don't know what is going to arrest that whole process. And we've seen many interventions, the so-called renewal process and all that. My problem with the suggestion, yes, it's fine to have an audit and all that. But if you say members have to reapply for membership of the African National Congress. And it simply means that everybody now needs to once again reapply. And remember, they also said political vetting. My question is, who is going to vet that process? Because already you've got people who are so conflicted, and most of them sometimes are also geared towards taking decisions which suits a certain narrative and not advancing the ideals of this glorious organization. And I have to emphasize it's a glorious organization, which unfortunately the current membership, because we keep on talking about the leaders, where is the members, the rank and file members of the African National Congress? And Tembekile, I just want to give you a typical, very brief example. What happens sometimes when the ANC is having its own internal elections, then suddenly certain members at branch level are now becoming members who are not in good standing because they are very strong and they might derail, the ascendance to leadership positions of certain leaders. But when it comes to national and provincial and local government elections, then they become good members again. And that is where I've got a problem with this whole renewal thing. Who is going to have oversight